Yes. Okay. So this is the English version of the same session we had in Finnish just a few minutes ago. This week, coffee break is about OneLake Security and Warehouse specifically on there, or SQL endpoint, if that's the correct term, because basically you are defining the OneLake Security on the Lakehouse, Fabric Lakehouse, and then you can use it on SQL endpoint also, which is basically the T-SQL endpoint or warehouse endpoint, or however you want to call it. And there, how this works is that I have here Lakehouse that I have pre-created. What I have done is that I have clicked this button. It's a one-way button that whenever you click it, you will turn on the OneLake Security, and there is no way you could turn it off once you have turned it on. So please keep this in mind so that you don't put the production Lakehouse into OneLake Security if you don't want to do that. When you have not clicked that, and you will click, it will say that, hey, this is you are about to turn on OneLake Security, and are you really sure? And then basically after that, you have try to click this. This doesn't work. Come on. Heck. Refresh, and then yes, now it works. So when you have created that or enabled, you will have only the default reader role. Then you can have as many as you want additional roles. And when you define a role, you define the memberships that who are who are as members on this role. Basically here, members in the role. And then you define what objects are in this role. And when you have defined an object, so you need to click that I want team currency to be in this role, you can define both row level security and column level security for the role. And when you define a row level security, I hope that I can click there. No, I will go here. Row level security. How it works is that it will have auto-created this where statement or this select statement with the where, and then this is the part you can fulfill or fill in to the role. And there are some operators that you can use. They have been documented, so there is a list of roles that you can define, or sorry, list of operators you can define in any role, and then that's the kind of way you are using that. Technically, I noticed that this is some kind of T-SQL editor, because you can put, for example, here, and then currency alternative key is more than upper function. Upper is where you put text and it makes it uppercase. So it kind of has a different color in there. So definitely this one is somehow kind of T-SQL editor or something. But if you try to use unsupported operators or functions, it will just fail. So that's kind of that. I tried multiple, whatever I've kind of had imagined. I tried multiple of them and didn't manage to use any unsupported ones. Good. when I have this role defined, what I need to do to make this visible on the SQL endpoint, so on the warehouse side, is that I need to switch to the SQL Analytics endpoint view, which I have open here. And I need to go to the security tab, and here on the sorry, it's no longer visible, but first time when you come here, and this one I think. No. Yeah, it's been it's a one-time operation. So when you come here, I think I could go back here once more. Yes, this is the place where I can come back later. So there is a button on the security tab, and unfortunately it was already shown in Finnish, but where you can choose between delegated and user user's identity access mode. Yeah, it says it over here. What the delegated is the default, and that means that I'm connecting to the OneLake using owner's credentials, Lakehouse owner's credentials. And then if I choose to use this other mode, user identity access mode, it tells that I'm connecting to the source, or that's it doesn't say it here, but on the original button it says that, hey, you are going on, you will connect to the OneLake using user identity. I slightly disagree with that one, because how I have found out is that it technically goes still with the owner's permissions, but this one generates an additional layer on top of this security model, which filters the rows, and we will soon see how that works. So it only works for tables. It doesn't work for views, stored procedures, functions, because they don't exist in the Lakehouse. They only exist on the T-SQL endpoint. So you're still going forward, even when enabling this function, you will use SQL to define privileges for that. But now I have granted this access, and I have on the Lakehouse side, I have multiple different roles with different roles. What happened when I created the roles and enabled the user-based access, not delegated, but user identity-based access to the SQL endpoint? It created few functions, one function per table. And if you script the function out, I think I have it here, this one, you can see that this is a function which takes two parameters, because in one of the roles for this currency2 table, I had defined that key column should be less than 10 and currency alternative key column should be in USD or euro. So it basically transformed whatever I created on the Lakehouse roles. It transformed them as a table valued function in SQL endpoint. The other one, this one, which is tied to the DIM currency, contains much more roles. Basically, this is much longer already. And one interesting thing is that Microsoft documents that you can only have, like, if you define column level security, you can only have, like, you have to define the row level security in the same definition. But actually, it's also so that if you define only row level security, you can only belong to one role, because this auto-generated script generates that if someone belongs to this group and belongs to this group, then this one outputs as 0. So basically no access to the row. So if in any case you belong to two different groups, then you will not see anything from the table. And I personally feel that this is like I don't like this behavior, because I would like this to be like a union of user rights, not like that I can only be in one role. Because then if you have a different combination of roles, then that's impossible. Kind of the number of roles grows exponentially. And also this auto-generated code grows exponentially. So then this one becomes slower and slower. If you have 40 different roles, this is already like hundreds of when statements long. But here I have a role which is only showing rows where euro and SEK is visible. That's one role. I have the euro only role. I have the USD only role. So kind of that one generates code for the SQL on how to filter the roles. And how this has been applied to your select is actually exactly same as on the SQL server. So if we look from the sys.tables, showing schemas, we find the table from there, and we look the security policies and security predicates. We can see that there is a security predicate, it's this -299, this one, which target object is the DIM currency. And the other one is this one. And then we have this security policy enabled for that table. So this is just exactly same row level security as we have in the SQL Server. And here those mysterious parameters play a role. So we can see that for this function, as a first parameter, it ingests currency key, and as a second currency alternative key. And then for this one, it only injects the currency alternative key, as that's my role definition on that table. So kind of this is exactly same as SQL Server. If you know how role level security works in SQL Server, this is exactly same, but on Fabric Warehouse. And column level security is also same. So we have sys database permissions and sys database principals. And if we select from there, we can see this is still, again, the same table ID. And we can see that there are roles where some role gets access to columns 1 and 2. One role gets access only to column 0. Then 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3, and 1 and 3. Because I had like different combinations of the role in my roles definition. And if we look what is the grantee principal ID, they map roles in database. So there is euro and column 16, which basically means that it only has two columns from 3, and there was that additional euro filtering. And then kind of euro only 15 doesn't has access to only the one column over here. So kind of this is also exactly same as SQL Server. So kind of and then if you select from the table and in Finnish version, I use the dim currency 2. In this one, I will use the dim currency. That was the longer definition. If I display estimated execution plan, we can see that it goes to the table and then it generates, sorry, that one doesn't work because I'm not member of any roles. This one where I'm member of role, if I took here, it goes to the table and then it filters with the role definition. So kind of applies the table valued function for all the rows coming in. So that kind of this one has the exactly same case when statement that I had in this table valued function, and that is applied to all the rows and then returned only those rows that I have access to. So kind of this is how the security is being defined. And this is the reason why I think that it doesn't go to the OneLake with kind of somehow doing the filtering there. It technically reads all the rows and does the filtering on the SQL engine, which I think is the performance-wise is the best way to do it, but it's not what is being documented. Effectively, it's the same, but kind of that it's still kind of it's not user identity which goes to the OneLake. It's still the owner, and then additional filter is being applied on top of that, which is coming from this function. You can modify these functions on the SQL endpoint, but whenever you do additional changes on the Lakehouse, they will be overridden. So kind of that it's not something you would probably want to do. But there is like an ongoing discussion that we should have more capabilities on these rules, that if I take this euro only, which had the euro rule over here, we should have more complex rules like inner join to something or kind of something similar. We have to keep in mind that how it's being transformed as a table valued function, and that could be kind of the reason why we are lagging some of these things, that kind of it's not easy. I would say it's technically possible, because in the SQL Server, if you define your row level security by hand, you can definitely do some kind of filtering and joining to other places. But kind of doing this automatically somehow generate the code, I would think that it probably requires, for example, changing the notation of this one, that we would define the rule somehow differently or something like that. But anyway, kind of as of today, you cannot join. And the reason is that now what Microsoft does is that it only applies this where statement, what you have defined here. They are applying that like directly one-to-one as a rule in the function, and that's how the filtering then works.